Good evening. Right, you can stop talking now.
What's that, Gary?
I said Rosemary can stop talking now.
Okay.
Kia ora and greetings and welcome to you all, and welcome to our Phoebe, Kira and Silas. I remembered 3 names in a row. It's a real test. I do have to warn you, we have a visitor from Auckland here, and so
We do.
we do, and it's him standing up there, and it's Dave Zussman, and he's involved in community housing Aotearoa, and he's an absolute whiz on community housing. So, welcome, Dave.
Welcome, Dave.
Yep. Now, I said to the to our speakers tonight that this is a group of parents and grandparents who are completely on their side, because one of the things that and one of the things that I was talking to them before, and I said the enthusiasm and energy that they are demonstrating that the planet needs is the sort of energy and dreams that an older generation like myself had at the same age.
Here.
And I think it's really important that there's been generations tainted by neoliberalism in the middle, and we actually need to teach this generation that there's another side to the world called socialism or left-wing thinking. But what do you mean, Gary?
Carry on, Gary. Carry on.
Don't stop.
So I'd like to, the 3 of them are going to speak, then we're going to ask questions and help them, because one of the important things is I can put my hand up and say I've been to your first 2 demonstrations, both of them. Anyone else have been at 2 of them? So some have been at 1, so you're speaking to a very, very enthusiastic audience. And thank you, Anthony, for doing the filming, and please this time try and keep it in focus.
I'll give it a go. It wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too bad.
I took the lens cap off.
Oh, you took the lens cap.
That
That was the bit I forgot. I couldn't work out why the hell there was no picture. So anyway, who's going to speak first? Right. The short one.
So hi, as you've heard, we're from School Strike for Climate, and I'm Kira, this is Phoebe, and this is Silas.
Hello.
And we are a movement that originated back in 2018 in Sweden and started off by a girl called Greta Thunberg, who I'm sure you've all heard of in the news. She's fabulous, and I would well recommend reading some of her speeches. And then the movement was carried on in Australia by a bunch of school students who rose up in the face of Tony Abbott. And that was, fantastic. And I think, like all grassroots movements, this is really built out of individuals who are passionate about the environment and about all things human, I guess. And so as for why I'm striking personally, I suppose those 2 photos, beautiful aren't they, will be a good summary. Because the snow on those mountains, if we let this crisis grow any more than it already has, that will melt, and the trees in the picture, and I think that's perhaps it's up in Hamner, they won't, or many of that species won't be able to survive the environmental changes. We are facing changes that should have taken eons, but are now happening in decades. And so that's why I'm striking.
Cool.
Good.
Hi, I'm Phoebe. I'm striking for people around the world who are already experiencing the effects of our climate crisis and don't have the power to do anything about that. So I'm using my voice to protect them.
Cool.
Good.
Hello, I'm Silas. I'm striking for future generations. The climate crisis has already affected our current standard of living, so we're never going to go back to that. But if we strike now, take action now, then our standard of living can be at least better than it would be if we're continuing as we are now.
Yeah.
And these, only quickly, this is what I was talking about before, our roots. That's Greta in Sweden striking off school every Friday, and that's the logo that was first created in Australia.
Awesome. So we're striking again on the 27th of September. So it was all around the world, people were striking on the 20th of September, but we're striking on the 27th because that's our last day of term for school students in New Zealand. So it's just trying to get more support if it's on the last day of term. So we've already, as you may have heard, we've already had 2 previous strikes, one on the 15th of March and another one after that. What date was that?
May 24th.
May 24th. That was just to build our support, and then we're moving on to the 27th as well.
Okay, so the main thing about this strike is that it's intergenerational, meaning we are calling all New Zealanders of all ages to strike on September the 27th. The intergenerational strike is important because it's a problem that affects everyone. No matter your political views, we all live on this planet. Many of you are parents or grandparents, so that makes it even more important because it's for the future of your children and grandchildren. So New Zealand students and people of all ages will be uniting across the world to protect our planet.
Thank you. So I guess the next point would be, it's not just us. It's not just New Zealanders. The strike is a human issue. Climate change is a human issue. It doesn't know borders. It doesn't know political boundaries. It doesn't care. It affects everyone. It doesn't differentiate between those who do the damage and those who don't. And most often disproportionately affecting those who cause the least damage. Take the Solomon Islands. They're seeing sea level rise at an alarming level. They've lost 5 islands already. And this is claiming people's homes, claiming their lives. And it's something that we all need to work for. No matter who you are, where you live, this is a human issue and we need to start acting like it. Whether you're socialist or conservative, young or old, this is everyone's problem.
So why do we continue to strike? So the main goals of the strike are to raise awareness about the climate crisis, and then also to pressure the government to take action, and then also just get it out there, have our voice heard, have youth voice heard, and empower us. So we're continuing to strike to continue to show everyone in the world, the government, people who do not listen to us, that the planet is important to us, the environment is important to us, and we need to take action on climate change. Nothing else will matter if we cannot look after the earth for current and future generations. This is our home.
And this is one of the famous Greta's speeches. I think it was taken from the one she did at the UN. I want you to feel the fear I feel every day, and then I want you to act. I want you to act as though you would in a crisis. I want you to act as if our house is on fire. And I think this rings true for most of us. I know most of the people I've spoken to feel almost exactly like this quote explains. This generation, the generation I'm growing up in, we are scared for our future, and often we don't know how to deal with this, and strikes like these are a great outlet to do so.
Climate change is one of the biggest problems humanity is facing right now, yet so many important people with the power are just sitting by and not acting. So we're striking to make sure that climate change is addressed, and so that we can get our government to act and make changes before it's too late.
Alright, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern claimed that climate change is our generation's nuclear-free movement, and we believe that the government is not doing enough to fight it. And in order to have our voice heard, we're striking and we're temporarily sacrificing our educations. Yeah.
And so these are our demands. Only the cool ones. We do have a list that I can send any of you the link to if you'd like to know more about the movement.
It's
which-
also on the website.
Yes, go to the website. It's cool.
We'll put it on the Tuesday Club notes.
That would be fantastic. So we want the government and all political parties to acknowledge the magnitude of the climate crisis by declaring a climate emergency. And as Jacinda referred to the nuclear-free moment, this is very much in line with that. As the declaration of nuclear-free went around the local governments, this is happening with a climate emergency, as has happened in Christchurch. And now we need the government to back us like they did then. And then do what?
Oh, they pass an ambitious zero carbon bill with a legally enforceable plan to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2040. So I'm sure all of you are aware of the carbon zero bill that's currently going through Parliament. We're just striking and we're pushing for the government to speed that process up and also to have the goals set at a high bar.
Can I ask how many of you submitted on the zero carbon bill? Oh, well done, that's fantastic. And did any of you do oral submissions? Oh, nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so it's people like you and everyone here, we need people to push for this, not just going to the strikes, but actually submitting on legislation that comes through.
For the government to cease all new exploration and extraction of fossil fuels. This one is really important because fossil fuels are just speeding up the process of climate change. It's also about protecting our New Zealand and our Aotearoa.
For the New Zealand government to invest in building a renewable and regenerative economy through meaningful partnerships between communities, tangata whenua, and youth to ensure complete kaitiakitanga.
And so I know this looks like a very youth-led movement, and it is, but we still need adult support, so we've got a few things that you can do to get involved. We've got marshals for the strike, and because we'll be marching this time, I think we need around 35?
Yes, if we keep going
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, 35. Over 18, yes. And to look after the students, so in event of emergency, be helping shepherd them away, hopefully.
Where do you sign up?
Oh, we've got a sign-up sheet here on the computer, so you can come talk to us afterwards, and then depending on how many we've got, we'll have a meeting. We'll send an email out. We'll send an email out if I have a meeting. And then we've got sign painting, which is coming up. Well, our sign painting is coming up on Sunday outside Aotearoa Unlimited.
Yeah, so there's that's my brother Matteo. There is 2 sign painting days that are organised currently. So Forest and Bird Youth are organising one on the 20th of September. There's more about that on their Facebook page. So if you want to look for it, go on Forest and Bird Youth and you should find it. And then we are organising a sign painting day on the 22nd of September. So that is also on our Facebook page. So if you want to find it, you should find it. And then you can also personally make a sign as well and get creative like my brother has here.
And even if you're not coming to the strike, we do need backup signs to give people on the day. And so if you want to show your support and can't make it to the strike, sign painting is a really, really good way to do that. And it's a great way to meet the rest of the team. Because I don't know whether you know, but we are the backup for this evening. We weren't meant to present. So there are a huge number of us who, yes, invest their time in the strike as well.
Doing a great job.
Thank you. And then spread the word. So contact us for posters. We've got a whole range that you can flick up around the city and share on social media if you have it. Invite your friends. Invite everyone. Send an email out.
Yeah.
And talk to your school/workplace. And then for another one that isn't on there, does someone want to talk about Flood the City?
Oh, it's next.
It's not. I deleted it.
Oh,
Sorry.
goodness. Okay. So we're planning on the 19th of September, which is this Thursday, something called Flood the City. So all throughout New Zealand, all the School Strike for Climate organisation committees are going to do it. And it's where basically, I think it's 8 p.m. on Thursday, everyone's going to go out with posters, chalk, and a whole lot of stuff. And they're just going to converge on the city and put up a whole lot of stuff to promote the strike. And then by the morning, when people wake up, the city should be flooded with posters and promotional stuff. And we're making sure that it's environmentally friendly as well. So we're not polluting.
So please come along and help with that. And then I think that's it for promotional things. But if you do have any other ideas, please email us. We'll come talk to us here. We can give you our address. But Phoebe, do you want to finish it off?
Yeah. It's not just for us. When we strike, it's for our children and their children. Climate change is an international issue, intergenerational issue, sorry.
Thank you. And yeah, sorry this is short, but we do have a lot of time for questions now. So if anyone has any.
Right. I found it slightly disconcerting at the start when I worked out that I'm 53 years older than Phoebe. Older. Right.
Yeah, there's two things we've got to battle here. One is that with a lot of people, they're really going for short-term gain for long-term pain. And it's a completely stupid attitude that people have got, but it's business people and rich people. Sometimes they're not young and they say, look, we're going to be dead before this is an issue, so we don't give a shit and we're just going to make as much money as possible. But it's as well as, it's not so much just the government you've got to win over, you've got to win over the people, because at the moment, you know, we've got a coalition government, and unfortunately not all the coalition are working on the same bloody side. But if there was more people with Labour and Greens, then you'd have a hell of a lot better chance of getting this through. But ultimately, you've got to win the people over, because they vote for the party, and that's going to, and we've got to do that. And people will eventually when it gets too late. And we've just got to do it sooner. We've got to do it before it's too late, and it's getting too late now. So.
Yeah.
Right. Who's going to respond to that?
Yeah, definitely. That's also why one of our main goals is to raise awareness about climate change or climate crisis. So we want to continue striking so more people know about what it is, or want to be like, oh, why are they striking? And then they have a look at what the climate crisis is. So that's one of the goals of the strike, and we're going to keep striking to raise awareness about that as well. And we talked to James Shaw a few weeks ago, and he was like, yeah, don't put pressure on the government. Well, we're still going to put pressure on the government because they need pressure. And of course we need to put pressure on political parties as well, because they're different entities and they may not be part of government. But yeah, definitely.
And interestingly, one of the kind of staples of our movement is the apoliticalness of climate change. It isn't by nature a political issue, and sure, the solutions, they may fall to the right or to the left, but I think we are trying in Christchurch to keep our strikes as apolitical as possible, and so we don't represent one party or the other. We want all the parties to come together to unite on what is really a human issue. And so yes, we do need more support for Labour and Green, but we need to bring everyone along with us despite party affiliation, and so that is really, really important to push.
Right. Questions?
Yes, I'd be interested in finding out how much influence you think there will be from the young people in both Australia and the USA. Australia have just elected a government that is very pro the burning of fossil fuels, and in fact that's what got them elected, and of course with the westerly winds all the rubbish blows over here. And the other one is the United States, where you've got a president who denies climate change. Can you comment on those two things, Australia and the US, please?
It denies reality.
They're plonkers.
Well, the generation that's on strike currently, we cannot vote, and I cannot comment on the madness that's going through the US at the moment. I don't know what we do, and it's awful, and I can't imagine what was going through their heads, but we can't do anything about what's happened in the past. We've just got to keep pushing for it, and hopefully the more media attention the strikes get, the less likely governments like that will become elected.
Are there strikes occurring in the US?
Yes, they are. They're occurring internationally. And so all over the world, I think we've had strikes in almost every country. And so it's a huge movement, and it's only getting bigger.
can I say something just to support that? Is that I think you're saying that you want to work across the political divide is a real key part of this, because I think what failed in America and Australia is that what has resulted is this huge, here's these people and they won't talk to each other. But I think we just got to hold on that we're all in the same boat, and we've got a little bit more chance to do that here, I hope.
And also on Australia and America, I think just all those things happening are making the strike stronger because more people want to strike. I know Australia had the biggest turnout. If you were watching the news, I think it was at the start of this year when they first had the strikes. They were speaking about it in Parliament, and that made more people come. So I think what the governments are doing is making more people take action.
And that's really important why the strikes are intergenerational, because you guys are the ones with the power, like, that can make the change. You guys can vote and you can advocate for those who can't speak.
We could change the voting age for a start.
I think that one of the big issues for a lot of people is that there is a lot of mixed messages being given out. And I think that whoever designs the message needs to make sure that everybody's on board. And one of the big things, of course, is plastics and what is recyclable and what's not. Do you keep the lids of milk bottles, for instance? You keep the milk bottle but not the lid. So what do you do with that? Because that's actually rubbish again. So, and I know that there's financial costs on that, but that's the sort of issue that I think makes people say, oh, I can't do it.
Do you want to respond to that?
Oh, sure. I think there's a certain amount of blame that gets put on the individual, which really doesn't belong there.
No.
Especially with plastics. Yes, the stuff we use is a big part of it, but commercial entities, big businesses, they use more, and I think we need to be targeting our energy more towards them to make them change, to make it socially unacceptable for them to use that much plastic.
Do you want any of you others want to respond to that? Or?
I can. So that's also another part of our demands. So our aims, we're putting pressure on the government, and the government should be taking action to address problems like that. So like raising awareness is also one of our aims. So if we put pressure on the government to take action, they will take action, and then they will introduce policies to prevent plastic waste and stuff like that.
Hopefully.
When I met with Jacinda Ardern, and this was just a few weeks or days after they passed the single-use plastics bill, and she said one of the most important things that helped to make this bill pass was the youth voice, and how thousands of children across New Zealand were writing to Jacinda and saying, please can you stop this because it's for my future and I don't want that pollution.
Excellent.
I'm interested to know locally, how many schools are involved, the age ranges, and what resistance or encouragement you've been receiving from said schools.
Awesome, thank you for that question. Yeah, so the schools have been varying degrees of support. So last strike on the 15th of March, a lot of schools sent out an email saying that the strike was unorganised, it was unsafe, and that parents shouldn't send people to it, which was blatant lies because it was organised and we had an event permit and so on. So what we're trying to do this strike is contact the schools directly and talk to them about spreading information that's correct, also telling them how safe we're making the strikes. So currently we've got a police liaison, we've got an events permit, we've got the marshals, we're making sure everything's safe, we're planning the route so it's safe, we've talked to the tram company so that they hold back the trams and stuff like that. So we're just trying to assure schools and talk to principals and board of trustees that it's a safe event and that they should support it because it affects them as well.
Well done.
So how many schools are...
Oh yeah, sorry. We don't actually have a specific number. There is 200.
A Okay, so quite a few of the high schools in the Christchurch, like the central Christchurch area, are supportive of the strikes, but there's still quite a lot of resistance, as Silas said, and so we have quite a few there. And a few primary schools have decided that they'll close for the day, and teachers can take the students to the strike, which is amazing. But many primary schools aren't supportive of us.
Yeah. Oh, and as for the age range, the girl who started off the strikes in Christchurch, her name is Lucy Gray, and she's 12, which is so incredibly impressive. She's a phenomenal person, and she's been leading the group ever since. But she's not the youngest person. Directly involved in organising, we've got Ori, who is, I think he's 10 or 11, but he's also young, but I don't think age really matters in a movement like this. It's how passionate you are about it. And so for us, we've got 9 to 18, I guess.
Could you identify which secondary schools haven't been supportive and will write?
Gary will write him a letter.
We can say who's been supportive.
Yeah.
So, Cashmere High School has been pretty supportive. We know that Girls High School has been pretty supportive, and also the universities have been really supportive. So, University of Canterbury is letting their students and staff go to the strike. It said that staff can take the day off, and well, most staff aren't going to, they're just going to go straight anyway. But Lincoln University is going to allow students and staff go, and so is Victoria University as well. The high schools.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we are hoping to put pressure on the schools that don't. We haven't quite worked out how we're going to do that, but if anyone's keen to write letters, then...
Here's the former deputy principal of Hagley.
Oh, wow.
Is Hagley involved?
Yeah.
It's 10 years since I've been there though.
I was there for my year 9. It's a pretty cool school.
Yeah, so some schools that we've had a little bit of resistance on are some private schools, St Margaret's College, Rangiru,
all of the boys' high schools.
Boys High, Shirley, Boys, Christ College,
Wow.
Papanui.
We can drive to school in cars.
Not cars, not that big issue.
I think that's most of what we've done to contact schools is we've sent out a school packs email to all the most of the schools in Christchurch that we have the emails of. And so what was in the pack was just posters, a request for them to promote it, and just detailing what the strike was. How many schools replied? Not many. Like one or two schools replied, which was pretty bad. So we're just trying to find other ways to contact schools. I know we've been contacting students to talk to their board of trustees, which has been working pretty well, and talk to their principals, which is how we got in contact with Kashmir and.
What about the major
Right, let's do a bit of all.
Gary, I was talking first. What about the major boys' schools like St Andrews, St Bede's, Boys High, Christ College? Have they come on board or not?
Oh no, they have basically been silent or against the strike movement.
Would you like me to write a shitty letter to them?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think there's a whole group of old organisers here. Who hands up those who'd be prepared to actually take part in a group that writes letters to principals? So can you come and see me afterwards?
Just on that, Gary, one of the points that they made earlier was that they're willing to sacrifice their education for a day to go on strike. Well, actually, what could be a better education than going on the strike? And I think that's one of the points to make to the schools.
Absolutely. So maybe if we get people to come up here afterwards, and we'll get you guys to actually tell us which schools there are. We'll spread them out amongst those of us that are doing, and we will contact all the principals.
That would be fantastic.
Okay.
And we will have to confirm that either direct, or I'll have to confirm the number of schools, but also the change in reaction. The change in reaction from each of the schools between the first strike and the second strike on May 24th, it was pretty impressive. A lot of the schools that had been very anti on March 15th, they changed their tune by the time May 24th rolled around, and I don't want to bring unnecessary hate on the ones that maybe not support us, but may not.
No, you don't need to do that. You can contact people and make them accountable.
Okay.
That's basically.
Yeah.
Gary, I just think that a number of us here went to schools in Christchurch, and if our schools weren't the ones that are help in on this, that I'm quite prepared to write to my old school, that's Christ College, and tell them to get in behind it.
Good.
And I'm happy to phone and find out whether they've received the pack.
Yeah.
And if they have, if they say don't know, well, then what I think we need is a channel of communication to you guys to let us know, to let you know how we're getting on with our individual responses. Because I think, who was it that spoke? Okay. Oh, Chris. I think Chris has got it. You know, if we know people, we can ring them and ask them, and just do it. But then we need to feed it back to you so that you can build a picture.
So can I say a more positive way of doing it is to actually write to the school you used to go to and say, I hope you're supporting this. So don't assume that they're not. So don't worry about who is and who isn't. Write to any school you were associated with and say, I hope you're supporting this, because how important.
But you need to follow it through, because they can just ignore it.
Right. None.
So just supporting the power of what you've had already and the power of letter writing. I teach at Lincoln University, and one of my students is now president of the NZUSA, and another is president of the Lincoln University Students Association. And another student organised a petition from the students to the Vice-Chancellor. So within a short space of time, he received a petition from the students and a letter from the president of the Students Association saying, you know, students are believing in this and we think you should do something. And so Lincoln ended up being the first in the country and came out quite enthusiastically supportive. And I happened to be at a meeting of sustainability staff from across the universities the day that was on the media in the morning, and it was announced that Lincoln had said yes and Victoria had said yes, and throughout the day all the other staff were busy handling calls from their home offices saying, we can't be left behind by Lincoln and Victoria.
Yes.
It's urgent though, because you've only got really 10 or 12 days.
Yeah. But even if this happens after this strike, we're going to be striking again, so at any point, yes.
Just by way of encouragement, there's historical precedent for young people kind of rising up. Just in the 60s and 70s, a lot of us here embraced kind of a hippie philosophy, and it did change the Western world very fast, astonishingly fast. And it was kicked off by young people in the face of hostility and total disbelief and total rejection, and it changed things in a generation very quickly.
Yep.
We've been there.
Right.
I
have a subsidiary question.
Subsidiary question.
I asked enough questions in the first round as it was, but to follow up or follow from, a number of schools are possibly hostile to their pupils being involved in the strike. What connection do you have, through your organisational structure with pupils in those schools, and how many of them are willing to just take the day off and screw the school anyway? Like a real good old-fashioned stick it to the man protest to invoke the 60s and 70s?
Yeah, so most of us are all just school students that get together every Thursday-ish, and we meet and talk about what we're going to do for strike and plan stuff. And then so most of us have friends at different schools, and that's basically the only connection we have with people at school, at other schools, unless they contact us directly. And most people get permission from their parents. I know it sounds goody two-shoes and stuff like that. I know all my friends are getting permission from their parents, and that's one of the only reasons they wouldn't be going, is because their parents would say no. So the problem is the schools need to say, yes, we support this, so then the parents say, yes, you can go. Because a lot of parents would say, oh, you can't go because the school says, oh, we don't support this. So that's one of our main struggles, and that's why we're trying to get this support from the schools and send out those emails.
It does seem that having supportive parents is very key part. Greta being allowed to take all those days off, for example, she has to have incredibly supportive, wonderful parents.
Mother's a pop star.
Does anyone have any questions regarding the strike itself? Or
Indeed, no doubt.
So you mentioned marching, so we're going to gather at Cathedral Square and then go off somewhere, is that a secret?
no, it's not. We can get a map up if you want to explain the route.
Okay.
Okay, so the route is what we're going to do for the plan of the thing. Do you want to try and find it?
I cannot find the map, but I'll have a go.
And the map is on our social media. We posted it a few days ago. But we're going to start at Cathedral Square. We have a stage, and we're going to give like a 10-minute presentation at the start, and then we're going to go straight into the march, and we're going to go down Worcester Street, yes. And then we're going to turn left, and we go along the Avon River, and then we're going to go up until we reach Cashel Street, and then we're going to basically follow the tram route along in a big circle back to Cathedral Square, and then that's going to hopefully take 40 to 30 minutes, and we're going to come back for another 10 minutes of speeches, and then we're all going to disperse because our event permit is for 2 hours. So.
Can I suggest catching the bus to the start of the thing?
Yeah.
The previous one I went to, I caught the bus there, and it's the most fun I've had for ages. On the bus with all the cool kids and their placards.
Were you able to use your gold card?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So we're planning on contacting Metro to tell them that we're going to be striking on that day, just to tell them so they can put more buses on the routes. And also we're going to ask them nicely if they can make the buses free for that day. Because Metro, I know, made the buses free for Earth Day, which was a few months ago, so the buses were free on that day. So I'm sure they'll be up for it, hopefully.
Oh, do you know the time of the strike? Was that mentioned?
Yes, so the time is 1 o'clock. Yeah, on the 27th, as we said earlier, and we highly recommend going earlier.
So we meet in
Square, and then there'll be 10 minutes. Yeah.
Or you can start walking from Lincoln University at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
After you, Lynn.
As she mentioned, Lincoln University is walking from Lincoln all the way to Cathedral Square.
Wow.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Fantastic.
Well,
can I just say thank you?
all right.
I'd just like to say a huge thank you for having us here today. You've been a fantastic audience and discussing people, I guess. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great.
Thank you.
John Patterson, he's the oldest one here, so he has to have the last say.
Oh, I remember.
He redefines fossils, you'll find.
I've just been amazed there tonight. I'm 83, and I've been stuffing the world up all bloody years. I come from the cornfields of northern England. My parents and my granddad, my great-grand, everybody's come from the pits who have been stuffing this world up for all these years. And I want to apologise to you, handing over the world that we've stuffed up. But it's been amazing listening to you tonight. You kids, it's just marvellous watching your confidence. That's the thing that gets me standing here and talking like this lot. And it's just fantastic what you're doing. And I feel much more confident now that I'm handing the world over to somebody that can put what we've stuffed up right. So thank you, and I'm sorry, and I'll be with you the weekend. God bless you.
Kia ora.
that says it all. Thank you very much, and thank you so much for coming. And we really, really, really do support it. So, if anyone is interested in coming down here to talk about contact with the schools, come and see me. And thank you all for attending.
If you have any more questions, just come over and ask.
Yeah.